There's possibly no villain in all of film that's more infamous than Sith Lord Darth Vader. And his theme, also known as the Imperial March, has taken just as high of a status within the film music world and has become one of the most recognizable pieces of music to fans and non-fans alike. Today, I'll be explaining some of what makes this powerful theme work so well for such a powerful character. Since this is a march, it makes sense to begin with the rhythmic profile first. Marches have always been synonymous with military as they were originally created to help keep troops, marching. Rhythms could also be played by a drummer to tell all of the troops to turn either right or left, stop, attack, retreat, or change formation. And so it makes perfect sense for Williams to use a march in order to represent the might and power of the Empire and Imperial Navy. A typical march pattern would look like this: a strong first beat, followed by a long and short fanfare-like rhythm on beat 2, and then this pattern would repeat. When we compare this to the Imperial March, we can immediately see a connection and essentially an elaborated upon version of this march pattern. The first beat, being a clear quarter note still, leads way to a more embellished beat 2, and the triplet figure that occurs throughout actually makes this feel more like the music is in a compound meter such as 12/8 instead of 4/4. It's only the theme itself later that will set this correct. This march rhythm is distinctly different though from Vader's actual theme. When it enters, there are simply 3 quarter notes followed by a beat 4 long short fanfaric rhythm. But these initial quarters, beginning directly on the downbeat, invoke a sense of power, of an unstoppable force that will simply barrel through anyone and anything. The same rhythm will repeat, and although we later hear a turn where the short notes will come first, actually removing some of the strength from this theme, the rhythm corrects itself once more at the end, moving back to strong attacks and long short divisions. And like many scores and themes within the Star Wars universe, Vader's theme can also be tracked back to another well-known piece from classical music. This time, Williams is referencing Friedrich Chopin's Funeral March, the third movement of his second piano sonata. The first noticeable comparison comes from the repetitive chord motion. In both cases, these marches are alternating between the minor tonic chord and the major 6th chord. The rhythm for both of these themes follows a similar profile, but so does much of the contour as well. In both cases, the second phrase moves up to begin on the 3rd scale degree, instead of the tonic, creating a building of suspense. Each theme then begins a descending scale from a much higher point, like a falling climax, before returning to the original idea. Because of this major 6th chord and the lowered 6th scale degree that is associated with it though, Vader's theme, as it outlines this route and then moves up to the 3rd scale degree, ironically outlines a major triad. This major chord, hidden just below the surface of this powerfully menacing and daunting music that seems to overwhelm us, is the musical representation of Anakin Skywalker's soul, hidden beneath the anger and darkness of what he's become. It represents that no matter how hideous of a monstrosity that Vader becomes, the basis of what he is, the very foundation of his existence, is still something good. The middle section of the theme is the most unique portion of this theme. Instead of continuing in a diatonic language by keeping the theme entirely or mostly in the key, Williams breaks into a completely chromatic descending scale from the high point of his entire theme. This chromaticism creates an eerie darkness within the music, and I mentioned before how the rhythmic profile is weakest at this point, but this allows us to see and hear the more sinister side of Vader as well. He's also cunning and an agent of the shadows, not to be trusted or ignored. This descending chromatic movement also echoes an ancient compositional technique known as a lamento bass. This is a rhetorical device that immediately indicates a sense of sadness and depression to the listener, and it works in a similar fashion here to convey one of the many shades of darkness of Darth Vader. It's always interesting though to consider that Darth Vader didn't even really have a theme in A New Hope, and that the Imperial March was only introduced in Empire Strikes Back when the might of the Empire was truly on display in an overwhelming way. Even as the main villain of the movie, he's left without his own leitmotif, which is strange within a Wagnerian-style leitmotif tradition. But this allows the music to focus more on the heroic characters, Luke's development, and the Force itself, which was so important to George from the initial conception of Star Wars. And I believe that this is why it was never changed in later editions, along with the fact that it would have been difficult to not break up the flow of all of the other music within the movie. But now I want to hear from you. Do you remember the first time you heard Vader's theme on screen? Has it ever lost its power for you? And what do you think of Anakin Skywalker being represented by the major triad? Tell me if I've missed anything in the comments below, and before you go, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to learn more about the music of the galaxy far, far away. And as always, may the be with you.